What's up, everyone? I hope everyone is connecting today. Hey, what's up, Alexa? ¿Qué pasa?
Hello. Nothing. Everything Gucci. I'm excited to hear some wisdom today.
Órale, órale. All of you take care of yourselves out there. Está caliente. Real hot the last few days out here in Sacra. Um, so I'm enjoying this smoothie my son just brought me. So, watermelon. All right, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about undocumented students. Okay, students sin papeles, right? The ones that were brought here, anytime, and just don't have a social security number. I'm going to break it down, try to simplify it as much as possible. So, um, let's just start. Okay, in California, California is probably the best state to be in if you're an undocumented student, a family, et cetera, et cetera. California has always, well, not always, but in the last few decades, been favorable. We understand, the importance of protecting some of or residents of California or workers of California that don't have a social security number. So you know, let me give you a bunch of examples so that we can kind of get an idea of what that means. Right. So I have thousands of students. I've helped thousands of students in my 23-year career that were undocumented. I helped them kind of figure out what do you got to do? When do you got to do it so that you pay the lowest fee possible for you to obtain your certificate, your associate's degree, or for you to transfer from a community college, a California community college, to a California State University, a University of California, or a private university. And so, man, I mean, I can't even count them. I've helped a lot, even back in the day when it was a lot harder to get through the system as an undocumented student. In the last few years, a lot of laws have changed, and so if you're an undocumented student out there, listen up, man, because you can go to college, and I'm going to show you how to do it the most affordable way possible. Alexa, before I jump into all the details, you went to San Jose State University straight out of high school and you did your 4 years and got your business degree. In any of that time, did you ever meet or know of undocumented students at the university level?
Yes, I did. There was a center for undocumented students called Spartan that
Mm,
had free legal services. If your parents or you're trying to, yourself going through like naturalization process, trying to get residency or citizenship, they have free services.
yeah.
So that was
Yeah,
really
support
nice.
services, just basically trying to help you make it through as best you can. Now,
Mhm.
they're not gonna walk you through everything, but they're there to help, like they know, they get it. And again, I started with California. We get it. Our economy, our entire economy in California is the fourth largest economy in the world. Like we make more money in Cali than most countries, right?
Mhm.
And so, without California, the United States is in trouble because California generates trillions of dollars. So,
Mhm.
you on whose back? Ag, manufacturing, shipping, logistics, right? You cross international trade, cross border. You're talking about mega Cali. We're and we have 40 million people. We're the most populous también pa cabala de chingar. We got more people than any other state. So and we do it on labor, right? On labor, on our on and most of that falls, on what the foods we eat, right? Boils down to a huge undocumented student population because families they come for various reasons, but we respect that. So basically, what California did many years ago, 2001, back in the day, I was a counselor still. I was just it was a rookie counselor, and I started getting students that would come to the community college level, all 115 colleges, they have the same rules regarding residency and how much they charge you. And so there's this thing called California resident fees. And then there's non-resident fees. Okay. So the reason, back in 2001 it's important is because before 2001, if you were an undocumented student, so you didn't have a social security number, or you did have a social security number, but you have the DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival Social Security, the employment Social Security number. in terms of the eyes of the federal government, right? You're undocumented, blah blah blah. But in terms of California, you're like, you're part of the team here. So let's see if those of you that want to go to college before 2001, when they'd go to apply to a college, they would get charged like $500 a unit, and one class is like 3 units. That's $1,500 for one class. You know what I mean? And then if you took a 5 unit class, like a math, a calculus class, well, it was almost impossible for undocumented students prior to 2001 to be able to afford to go to college. Because I mean, come on, yeah, no, $1,500 per class, and that's just one class in one semester. Now you want to do 4 or 5 classes, it's now almost impossible to go because of the income, right? And so 2001 passed, and this big law called AB 540 passed in California, Assembly Bill 540. And AB 540 basically says, hey, you know what? If you went to high school in California and at least went to high school at least 3 years and graduated in Cali, then you like really are Californian. So we're gonna allow those of you who went to high school for at least 3 years in California and graduated from a California high school, or got a GED in California, but also did the years. So it's 3 years at least or more, right? 3 years or more, and graduation from high school in California, you would be allowed to pay the $46 per unit, not the $500 per unit. It went from $1,500 a class to $150 a class. All of a sudden, it became a little more accessible, right? And here's the thing: undocumented students, they don't qualify for federal financial aid. So all the FAFSA stuff, don't ever do it. If you're an undocumented student, don't ever fill that application out. Okay. That application is to the federal government. Federal government doesn't recognize you. So federal government's not going to give you anything. Okay. So don't even bother. And you don't want to get in trouble with them. So again, don't even bother. But California created an application called the California Dream Act. And this, now remember, I started with like a history lesson from 2001 and AB 540. Over the years, more laws have passed to allow undocumented students to receive just a little bit more help. And remember, no one ever pays for everything. You're just going to get a little bit more help over the years. There was a bunch of Senate bills, Assembly bills that modified the AB 540 law and allowed more access. So, as we stand here today, if you don't have a social security number, you can go to high school, middle school, elementary school, high school. Now it's like any K-12 grades. If you have at least 3 years, like maybe you were 1 year in Modesto at elementary school, and then 3 years in Sacramento in high school, and you graduated or got a GED, now you get to pay the lower fees. And then another law passed that allowed these students to apply for, and if they qualify, to receive California financial aid. And California financial aid, they fill out the California Dream Act. So if you're an undocumented student or know of one, they should fill out this thing called the California Dream Act every single year. That's their version of the FAFSA, but don't fill out the FAFSA if you're undocumented, okay? But the CAVA, is what they call it, the California Dream Act application. That's the federal, the version of the FAFSA. So nowadays, if I meet an undocumented student, I tell them right away, if you come to our college and you register, say, for full-time status, say you get 12 units, right? 15 units, doesn't matter. And you see that we're charging you thousands of dollars, you need to just stop and start asking questions. Okay. Because remember, if you're paying $46 a unit, which is what you should be paying if you're an undocumented student with the 3 years, that we just talked about, and high school, that kind of stuff, or GED, adult school counts as well. You should be paying $46 a unit, not 500 a unit. Okay. And if you take, say, 10 units, let's do the math. Algo fácil, right? Something simple. Say you take 10 units and it's 500 a unit. Okay. That's going to be like, 5 G's. If you see that kind of number, you already know something's wrong. So you're going to have to go to the admissions and records office, call them, do a Zoom appointment, say, "Hey, look, I'm undocumented, but I'm a dreamer, or I did my 3 years in high school, K-12, adult school, whatever you did. and you need to fill out. Usually you kind of usually what happens is that the student misses a step or the college loses it, and that happens very often, that you didn't fill out this thing called the California non-resident tuition exemption form. Okay, I'm going to say that another time because it's a long name and it drives me nuts. It's called the California non-resident tuition exemption form. Once you fill that out, that kind of you're telling the college, yes, I have more than 3 years at a K-12 California school or adult school, and yes, I have a GED or high school diploma in California. That form is what takes you out of non-resident and puts you into resident tuition, like a Dreamer student, an AB 540 student, an undocumented. All those names, they'll use different names, but just know if they say Dreamer and you're an undocumented student, that's you. If they say undocu something, that's you. You mentioned, Alexa, that San Jose State had an undocu like resource center. So does the community college level at every campus now. And so, those of you who are undocumented, and I get it. You don't want to let people know. You don't, you're trying to be careful to take care of your family, etc. Um, that those centers, they're strictly confidential. You know what I mean? So they don't share anything outside of nothing. Actually, they don't share anything. You just go there, ask for service, whether you're documented or undocumented. You can use the Undocu Resource Center. Okay, they're open to everybody, but they specialize in helping undocumented students, and they know the rules. They know where their resources are. They know which scholarships that are that you can even apply for. They know which jobs are out there that you can apply for. They can help you do your resume and career stuff. Different centers, how depending on how big they are, can help you with some things if you're an undocumented student. So don't automatically say, okay, I no tengo papeles, I can't go to college. No, 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 no. You're in Cali. In Cali, talk to me, call me, set up an appointment. If you reach out to us, here we're on live, but if you reach out to us, Alexa will drop my Calendly link, a direct message to you, if you need to chat, right? And again, we do all of this for free. We don't charge you anything. We'll do 30 minutes with you, Zoom, Google Meets, whatever, phone, just to answer your questions, because sometimes you do need to talk to those professionals that understand all of these rules, and I can tell you which college, how to do it at the college that you're trying to get to, or that you're currently at.
I also want to say something, and maybe you can
Mhm.
repeat it because I'm not on like the other some of the lives, but I'll say it in Spanish. Muchos de los centros de los indocumentados en las escuelas comunitarias y las universidades de 4 años están en un lugar privado o tienen seguridad, o sea, no tienen que preocuparse tanto por lo confidencial. Entonces, eso es lo que quería decir. Ujú.
Ya,
So maybe
y
you can repeat.
siempre, sí, comiencen con la página de internet del colegio y buscan ahí Undocu Resource Center, Undocumented Student. Do searches for that, right? On the campus website or where you go to, and something will come up about the resources. And just from my experience, I've been in this California community college system for 25 years now. They're legit. Okay, and they're there to help, and the people there know all the different weird little rules of admissions and records and registration, so they can help you when you get blocked from classes, when you get blocked from, like, you're not getting a certain aid or a certain service. And then some of the students decide to, like, mobilize and become like start a student organization that advocates for immigrant rights, stuff like that. So some are bigger than others, but definitely check them out. Y comiencen con la página de internet del colegio. Now, um, so again, if you apply to a college and you register at California Community College and you register for 12 units and you think everything's great, and then all of a sudden you see your bill 5,000, 3,000, 2,000, as soon as it breaks like 1,200, 1,300 bucks, something should be telling you something's wrong. I need to contact Admissions and Records. I need to contact the Undocu Center and ask, hey, I thought I was going to be able to pay, resident fees, and all of a sudden, I'm getting charged all this money. It happens at the college I work at. It happens. I deal with that at least 3 times a day. A student comes in panicky, llorando. Oh my God! Me dijeron que it was going to be free. They told me it was going to be free. I go, it might be, but there's something wrong in the system. So right away, I say, check your bill. The bill is really, really high and expensive. You need to then ask questions. And the first thing is you go to admissions and records. Okay, aquí está el proceso. You do the Zoom or you call or you go to admissions and records and you tell them that, hey, I'm a Dreamer student, I'm an undocumented student, I'm an AB 540 student. Okay, and I applied for college, and you're charging me thousands of dollars. Okay, the helpful ones, the helpful people, because you're going to run into some unhelpful people. Okay, but the helpful ones, and now this is why we do these things, have these conversations, is if they're not helping you, you need to be a little more firm or ask for help from somebody else, okay, that may know how to get over those barriers. Admissions and records can then fix whatever's in the system that's charging you like the thousands of dollars. Okay. They might need a form from you. Some of them might want to say, okay, bring me proof of high school graduation, bring me a high school transcript or whatever. Have that kind of with you just in case you get asked, right? So that you don't waste time, you just have it with you so that they can clear it there. Once they clear that, you're going to see your fees drop from like $5,000 to like, 400, 300, 600, depending on the $46 per unit is what California residents pay, and undocumented students that meet those years of requirements, they can also pay that. And if it's $46 a unit, times that by 12, you're looking at $600, not $5,000. Okay, so there's that red flag that tells you have to then go advocate for yourself at the admissions and records office. So, Alexa, I know in San Jose State it wasn't smooth running. Did you ever have to go to your admissions and records office?
I never had to go directly, but I definitely had to talk to them online to, get
Mm,
like classes sorted out, any sort of questions answered.
that's right, because you're in the generation post COVID, so you got to do everything online. That's another thing,
Exactly.
everyone that's listening is, yeah, go online first. You're going to save a lot of time. You're going to save a lot of money. If you can do a Zoom, do a Zoom. If you can get someone emails, start sending emails so that you have it in writing. Another tip on that, especially for the students out here in Northern California, is send your emails from your Gmail address that the college gives you. Okay. Every student has an email. Did you have an email, Alexa? I'm sure you had an email at SJSU,
Well, yes.
right? And it ended with like .edu, like
Yes.
.education. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a reason. So every college, when you become a student, you get an email at that college that ends in .edu. Okay. Send your emails from that to admissions and records. Send your emails from that to financial aid. Because right now, just to be honest, there is so much verification steps for identity and stuff like that. And it's not your fault, especially an undocumented student. You're gonna be like, whoa, they want what? They want me to ID what? All these like ID verifications, okay? That's causing a lot of our kids to panic. A lot of our students are panicking because they're like, no one's ever asked me for the California Real ID and all this other stuff. It's not because of you, okay? What happened is that the system, the whole California community college system, found thousands of fake students in the system. And they were being attacked by like bots, and these bots were like creating fake accounts, and so they had to then increase the security to make sure that the people that are applying are human, right? So that's why all this started. But at the same time, it causes a lot of our vulnerable populations, like undocumented students, panic, right? Because again, you're always on the lookout because of what you see and what's happening at the federal level, right? The raids, there's people with deportation. So you have a right to be cautious. You have a right to be feeling the way you're feeling. So at the end of the day, like I said, sometimes you got to visit admissions and records. Sometimes you got to visit your counselor, but first start with admissions and records, because counseling is another process that you have to kind of get used to. That there's no real quick answers. You got your counseling appointments might take a few weeks to get. So don't wait. Okay, that's the thing. Don't wait. Visit admissions and records, or do a Zoom appointment with them as well. So The what I explained there is for those undocumented students so that if you're getting charged thousands of dollars when you're going to community college and you want to reduce that, you got to follow the steps of the non-resident tuition exemption form and admissions and records until they adjust it. Once they adjust it, and once you see your price drop, it went from like, non-resident fees, which is $500 a unit, to resident fees, which is $46 per unit. You're going to see the big price drop down to say, I don't know, 400 or 500 bucks based on how many units you register in. Now you know that you're a California resident in the system. Okay. So now you're like, okay, cool. One step in. Now you need to make sure you apply to financial aid. And you should, because if you qualify, that's just going to save you a ton of money. If you don't qualify, they're just going to say, oh, yeah, you don't qualify. Okay, cool. I'm going to pay the 46 bucks per unit. But if you can get out of paying the 46 bucks per unit, and now, because there's been, again, remember, since 2001, there's been more laws that have passed that have given a little bit more help to undocumented students. Um, Now, undocumented students can also qualify for what's called the California Promise Grant. And the California Promise Grant, back in the day, we've always had it, but back in the day, we used to call it the BOG fee waiver, the Board of Governors fee waiver. And so that fee waiver waives the $46 per unit fee. So remember, make sure that if you're an undocumented student, you applied to the college, you made sure that you're a California resident in the system. Okay, you turned in everything you needed to. Um, Now you applied for the California Dream Act application, okay, to try and get some, see if California wants to give you some, or if you qualify for California financial aid. You may, one of the awards might, if you qualify, but there's family size, there's income, there's other things, there's more than one promise grant. So you can qualify under different categories, but most students would qualify as like low income students. The need based financial aid is what they call it. That will waive your 46 bucks per unit. So if I registered, say I enrolled for 12 units, I should be getting a bill as a California resident, right? Do the math for me there, Alexa. 46 times 12, right? It's going to be close to say 600 bucks, I think.
I need my calculator.
Yeah, do the calculator. I should be paying 40 as a California resident. Okay, 40 or $600 or so, my registration fees. Once I get that promise grant, that registration fee, the $600 is gonna drop. It's gonna drop to almost nothing. Okay, what's it gonna drop to? In my district, which is the second largest community college district in California, which is the Los Rios district, it will drop that registration fee, that $600. It'll drop to about $60, and that's for the whole semester. So basically, you pay 60 bucks. And the 60 bucks is not for classes because the promise grant paid for classes. Okay. The 60 bucks is really the students themselves. The students have a student government. Okay. And the government, over the years, the student government has said, hey, we want a free bus pass. Okay, so they kind of tax themselves. They vote, and if the in the election, if they pass it, they basically tax themselves, but they take it out of like the other students' fees, and so that's where it comes out of, right? And it's not just for that. There's a bunch of other stuff. So at the Los Rios district, the 60 bucks that you pay for like full-time academic study for one semester, it pays for your ID card is a bus pass, so you can jump on any bus or light rail in all of the, basically the county for free. And that includes Yolo County, where we have West Sac Center. So it also includes the buses that get out there. All you got to do is show your ID card to the bus driver and you're good. So that's one of the major benefits of the $60. And it's a one-time $60 per semester. Another major benefit, it also raises funds for like health services. So on each of the campuses, we have health services that's open and free to students, right? So if, you say you don't go to a doctor regularly, well, we have nurses, right? We have dental hygienists, we have those kinds of things through our programs at the different colleges that you can go and get services as a student, right? Basic services, but it's, it's some form of healthcare services that you'll be able to get from those $60. So once you see $60, yeah, that's what you're going to pay for that first semester. If the student that's undocumented, that's just the promise grant, and that's just the fees, right? If the student applies on time and it also meets the additional requirements, they can now even get a Cal grant, okay? Which means California financial aid, California grant to that undocumented student as long as you meet all of the requirements. And there's income requirements, there's different types of Cal grants depending on which Cal grant you're going after, but all of those grants are also open to undocumented students nowadays. So like I said, there's a lot of services now that it doesn't pay everything, but it gives you, like, a little help. A little help is better than no help. So um undocumented students I often see now can pretty much, well, I don't want to say 100% survival rate, because that's not reality. Reality is our lives still get in the way, right, of our college education, and sometimes we have to adjust, and that's why we always promote community colleges, because you can adjust. You can drop out if you want for a semester, come back next semester. You can, we're pretty flexible. So we're flexible with you undocumented students as well. Now, seek out your network when you get to the college campus. Seek out your network like anything else, right? Join clubs. Join undocumented students can also join EOPS program at the local community colleges. EOPS is Extended Opportunity Programs and Services. That program, I was an EOPS student. You can be undocumented or documented to join EOPS because it's a state funded program. It helps you with counseling. It gives you a lot of access to faculty advisors, to good people that understand, what situations you might be in that can really keep you moving forward in your education. Textbooks, they pay for textbooks. So if you have textbook fees, they'll help you with some textbook book vouchers. Um, Tutoring, usually in math and English, right, which are the toughest subjects for people to get through. Um, Different programs that are bigger, offer a little bit more. Smaller programs offer a little bit less, but for the most part, they're there for first generation low income students. Whether you're documented or undocumented doesn't matter. So if you're an undocumented student, definitely hit up EOPS for services. Also, last service I want to kind of mention for undocumented students is our disability resource services. you know, I think last I looked, it was like one in every four students have some form of undiagnosed learning disability. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize it's literally 25% of the population. So DSPS is open to any student. Doesn't matter if you're documented or undocumented. They're there to help you really navigate the system with the disability that you may have, whether it's physical, whether it's vision, whether it's emotional. It doesn't matter. If you had an IEP in high school, yeah, get DSPS services, disability student programs and services. Apply for them. They're gonna, you have an IEP from high school. That's like an instant in. Um, Not only additional counselors, resources, computer labs, extended test taking time, extended time on projects. I mean, they really, really do what they can to accommodate the learning environment so that you can be successful. So definitely seek them out if you're an undocumented student as well, especially if you have an IEP. And if you don't have an IEP, you can have DSPNS do an evaluation for free. And it's free evaluations, and they can determine whether you have some kind of learning disability or not. I myself have a disability, but I didn't know that until after I finished college. So it came a little late for me. I didn't get the services, but it would have made my life a little bit easier. So Alexa, speaking of services, what other services did you take advantage at San Jose State?
So at San Jose State, they had EOP, which is the same thing as EOPS,
Mm.
and they offered me like $700 a semester, so
Yeah.
around 1,400 a year for like textbooks and stuff. And I did scholarships. So I did the San Jose State campus scholarships. There's so much money to be given, and a lot of students do not
Yeah.
take advantage. I didn't take advantage until my 3rd year, so that should tell you something. It takes 3 years to look for that free money and money that they don't want back. Like I can
That's
just
right.
keep it to myself.
And all
So,
of these services, they're not like giveaways. You're writing essays, you're doing the work for them, you're filling out applications, and you're understanding that paperwork matters, right? And the
mhm,
better you get at knowing when certain things are due, like I put all my stuff on a spreadsheet, and then now I use AI to remind me. And so you can be if you become that kind of processor machine, you
mm,
can you can literally walk away with the with no loans and everything paid off by the time you finish school. But yes, you have to put in the effort. Okay, you got to
yes,
find them, you got to write those essays, and you got to get them in. And but you also did you also get federal financial aid?
I did. So I did
Okay, so
the
you got some of the
FAFSA.
federal. What about like a Cal Grant kind of stuff? Did you get one of
I
those?
got Cal Grant, I got Pell Grant. So
Okay,
all of the tiers of like low income student,
yeah,
the money that they give out, I got all of them. So I would get refunds of about 200 or $2,000 a semester
yeah.
at the
And I don't
university.
and I don't want to lead people to believe that you're going to get all your school paid for. Financial aid, the federal government, it really only is intended to help you a little, like less than 30% of what it really costs to go to school. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Most low income students, like I was one of those, you also have a job and you're also working because there's not enough to pay for the living or for the additional college and university expenses. So and it's even harder for undocumented students because as you heard Alexa, she said Pell Grant, right? Pell Grant is a federal grant. Undocumented students don't qualify for the Pell Grant because it's federal, but they do qualify for the state grant, which is Cal Grant. Okay, so that's why the importance of every single year filling out the California Dream Act application. And you can Google that California Dream Act application. You can also go to the website of the government agency that oversees the California Dream Act. And the government agency is called the California Student Aid Commission. Okay, the California Student Aid Commission does a bunch of stuff, but they manage the Cal Grant programs. They manage the California Dream Act application for undocumented students. They manage a bunch of other stuff too. But that's where you also want to check out their website and know that okay, this is the government agency. It's called CSAC, California Student Aid Commission. They oversee the Cal Grant programs, amongst other things, and the California Dream Act application, which is the financial aid application for undocumented students. Now, when do you fill that out? Okay. They're supposed to have it out every October 1st. Okay. And I want to say it that way because sometimes they meet it, sometimes they don't. But usually by November 1st, it's out. Okay. You should fill it out. I tell my kids fill it. We fill all of our stuff out. We close out kind of every year, and then in January we start filling out all the new applications. It comes out say October 1st. Me and my family, we do all we know. We have it on the calendar. We do it all in January. Whoever's going to college, it's January. We're doing everything in January for financial aid. You normally have until March 2nd. So it opens up in October till March 2nd to be considered priority applicant. Okay, which means like you got it in and during the priority period. So basically they're going to give you guys the first shot at everything. Okay, you got it in before that March 2nd deadline, you're priority. You get it in after March 2nd, well now you're not you're still going to get you're going to get some help, but you're not priority. So, those of you who fly a lot, it's like first class seating, and then right after first class seating is business class, and then the other seats way in the back that are even tighter. Economy, and so there's those tiers. You want to be priority by getting the California Dream Act application in, October, November of every single year, so while you're in college. Okay. High school seniors, those of you that are in 12th grade that are undocumented, you want to get that California Dream Act application in. Like say, right now it's August, right? So in 2 months, it should be available if you're a high school senior. The October of your high school senior years when it comes out. You can do it in October. You can do it in November. Again, me and my family, we do all ours in January. Just so we have it on the calendar because we still have a couple kids in school. Um, and then just get it in. There's going to be follow up, but you just got to get it in. I'm sure you remember the financial aid application.
Yeah, it was very difficult and a lot of nervousness and anxiety because I did not know how to fill it out. And I didn't know you had to fill it out every single year. That was
Yeah.
another thing. I thought I was done after high school. No, every year
I
it
don't look
changes.
forward to filling it out. I mean, they try to make it easier, but man, the words they use, it's like, what is this? And so, you just got to read every question 3 or 4 times, not two, 3 or 4 times. Alexa, I think what you filled out was the federal application, which is the FAFSA. That's the other application. That's the application for U.S. citizens, permanent residents, refugees, asylum seekers, all that. That's the FAFSA. That's a different application. If you're listening to this, this is about undocumented students, right? Undocumented students do not fill out the FAFSA. You're going to fill out California's version of the FAFSA, which is the California Dream Act application. But so basically it's a mirror of the FAFSA. It's almost the same identical questions. It's just this one stays in California and doesn't go to the feds. And that's again another way that California protects you is to kind of keep it to California, keep it in the state because it's a state funded program. So in a nutshell, if you're an undocumented student and you're listening to this, if you're a parent of an undocumented student and you're listening to this, if you have friends that are undocumented, let them know like, hey, you can go after a certificate and associate's degree. You can go after a university bachelor's degree, transfer program through community college to the, you can do all of that. All of that's open to you. Majors in California, the last thing I kind of want to say is there's there's people who are going to be able to kind of get a social security eventually, and then there's people who are not, and that's kind of what's jacked up about our laws is that they take years for people to claim to be able to allow a legal residency, like years, like decades in many cases, and some people can't do it at all because of the situation in which they found themselves in. So I get a lot of students who say, well, why should I go to college if I don't have a social security number, I can't work? And I'm like, damn, you know what? Shit, you don't have a social security number. So that, and guess what they ask you? Like at a big company, guess what they ask you first is a social. So, there's first and foremost, there's organizations that are experts in this. And I want to share one with you guys first, which is called Immigrants Rising. Okay. Immigrantsrising.org. They're a California based nonprofit. They are, I mean, phenomenally good in giving you information on like how do you start your own company. Why? Because you don't need a social security card to start your own business. You don't need an SSN. If you're the boss and you start your company, you don't need an SSN. You need an ITIN, which is different, but you don't need an SSN. And so there's things like that you got to be thinking about as well as an undocumented student. So in California, we're lucky. We allow professionals in this state who are undocumented to have professional roles. What do I mean by that? I mean, like if you're trying to be a lawyer, right, an attorney, you're trying to be an attorney in California, California Bar Association will allow you to be an attorney. You can be a practicing undocumented person and be an attorney in California. Same with nursing, because that's the state of California that gives you the licenses for those, right? And if the state of California gives you any license, the state of California can also give those to you if you're an undocumented student to do a specific profession. So cosmetology, that's a state license. You know the little paper that's on the cosmetologist that's good in your hair? That little paper, that's a state license. Undocumented students can do a cosmetology program at any college and then or private, even private institutions, and go and take the test and qualify. Real estate agents, real estate brokers, all of those have to have state licenses. So Again, California, you're good. Out of California, ta cabrón. So be careful, if you're trying to, leave California. If you're an undocumented student, I do your best to probably stay. Um, so that you have some valid points with hearing students over the years on their concerns. For the most part, I would definitely check out immigrantsrising.org. They have scholarship booklets. They have what types of careers are primed for undocumented students. What do you have to be thinking about as you move through not only college but universities, and then eventually the employment, the professional employment. So lots of things you can do there. But another thing that I want to share is a student situation. That one of my one of my most memorable students. Um, he i- i- he came, early 2000s, and I met him in college. He somehow got an appointment with me and walked in. Young guy, undocumented. He was kind of not wanting to. He was there, but not wanting to be there, just because he felt there was no use for him to be there. Um, and so my advice has changed over the years, but in that time, I said, "Look, you need a skill that anyone will pay you for." And he goes, "Okay, okay, I'm just gonna fix cars." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, auto mechanics. That's a great career you can choose. That's no problem. But do you want to be like a even better mechanic?" And he started looking at me, and he's like, "What do you mean?" I go, I got plenty of tios, and I got plenty. My dad, included, was a mechanic. They were farm workers, but they were mechanics. And they would do anything they can to keep the car running, right? And they were good mechanics, even though they didn't have a whole lot of money and that wasn't their full time profession. But because our community had no money, we would just go to mechanics like my dad and my tios, and they'd get the car running. But they're not a shop; they're not professional. It's backyard kind of stuff to make sure that people can get to work. And I just dropped an idea, and I said, "What if you became like an airplane mechanic?" And I go, and like a helicopter mechanic, like a jet engine mechanic. Like, dude, like anyone can do a carburetor. I can do a carburetor, but I ain't touching that plane engine. That if that thing fails, that plane falls out of the sky. You have to be like a mechanic darn good, you know what I mean, to make sure that that thing doesn't go down. Because when planes go down, people die. Okay, if your car doesn't start, you don't die. Plane engine cuts out, it's deadly. So anyway, so he decided, he goes, "Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna be that kind of mechanic." So I put him in the aeronautics and aviation program at Sacramento City College, which is one of the only community colleges that has an aviation program. There's only like four or five, I think. Um, Man, he nailed it all. Every semester, body power plant, they call it, and body, the plane body. He was the only Mexicano in the whole program, right? That because no one really tells la raza, hey, there's this other way to be a high skilled mechanic, but you're working on things that are just very expensive and unique. And so, anyways, long story short, he was an undocumented student here, and so now he's a Canadian citizen, and he lives on a ranch in Canada, and he works at one of the major airports, working and building planes. It's like, wow, totally, turned it around and said, now my life is stable. He chose to then, move north, hasta más north, y le está yendo. It's going well for him, and I'm very kind of proud of him doing that, because he took a risk to study something that he was unfamiliar with, and then eventually took a risk to use that to then claim residency in a country that he continues to live in now. So, just a quick, those stories are real, and those stories are just, really inspire a lot of people to, yeah, you know what, maybe it's my turn. And if you don't have papeles, don't let that scare you away. Make an appointment with us. We can have a private conversation about what your situation is, and what your options are going to be locally, wherever you're at, whether you're in San Diego, LA, Fresno, Sac, donde sea. Aquí estamos para ayudar. Okay, Alexa, time to question you here. Why did you choose business administration as your major?
It's a good question. I grew up in a small Peruvian and Italian restaurant, and I started helping my parents, being waitress, when I was
Mhm.
14. So I think I just developed that like ganas de hacer business,
Yeah,
and
because your family was doing it. Your family are entrepreneurs. They have a
mhm,
restaurant,
exactly, exactly.
I mean, I shouldn't have. I'm not going to ask because if you're a good, daughter, you're going to help,
Uh-huh.
and you're going to help starting very young, right? I
Yes.
believe too. My kids started working for me since they were like 3. But to teach them work
Exactly.
ethic, yeah, and you got to help the family, and often without pay
Yeah.
or very reduced pay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I learned a lot of good lessons, like, I would save my money. If
Hmm.
my mom gave me $50, I would keep 20 and I would give her 30. So I would, like,
Yeah.
have a reward, but also know how to save, and throughout the years, I was basically working towards my own savings account, and I
Hmm.
didn't know that as a kid because, I mean, $20 was a lot for me. So it
Right.
was fun, yeah, and now I started my business in 2020 called Alexa's Delights. So I sell Peruvian
Hmm.
alfajores now, and I'm trying to figure out how to grow that,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just been great, like, and that's why I wanna do business.
And business is a great major for undocumented students
Mm,
because everything is a business. Doesn't matter what it is, it's a business. So the more you understand about management of people, money, and products, man, you can apply that to anything. You can apply it to the paint on the wall. That's a business. These headphones, businesses, everything.
everything.
We're communicating on right now. There's billions of businesses. The curtains are behind me. All of it's a business. When I flick the light on, hijola, that's a business. The electricity, the switch, everything. The little screw that holds the chingadera on, it's a business. Someone is making money, right, off of everything we're doing. The shirt on your back, it's a business, right? And so business administration is a go-to major that if a student comes to my office and really has no clue, I'm like, look, I'm just going to prepare you for life later. You need to make as much money as possible and save as much of it and make it grow so that when you're 70, you have money to burn and not, worried about what the hell you're going to eat the next day. Right. And so, business administration, very popular major that I make a lot of recommendations to major in, especially if you're undocumented, because let's say worst shit happens, you get deported. Okay. Well, you get deported wherever you're going to go. Guess what? There's business. Everything where you're going to end up is a business. And if you can kind of really have a good sense and understanding of how businesses are organized and how they're run, you can be valuable. The Another major that I highly recommend just in general, but also to undocumented students is technology. Okay. Trust me, Maria, my wife, she works for big tech. She's been working for big tech for like 20 years. Okay. Like hardcore kind of stuff. The more technical skills you have, the more freedoms you have, especially in big organizations. And here's the other thing: big organizations, they can get you residency. If you're valuable enough to that company, dude, they'll bring you over on a visa. They'll write to the federal government for you. I mean, I've seen things where like, wow, that person's skill is that much that this big ass company is writing letters on their behalf to become residents or to relocate to the United States or to wherever because they're global companies. And again, technology. What do I mean by technology? I think if you're open to any major in technology, cybersecurity is one of the top. Okay. And there's associate's degrees, there's certificates at the community college level. At most community colleges, the community colleges got to be big enough to have a computer science department, and they'll have like cybersecurity, information assurance, artificial intelligence is now big, but there's only like one or two schools that have it. Folsom Lake College has artificial intelligence and machine learning certificate. It's 6 classes. Okay. If you're listening to this, and you're unsure, or like, should I start? I don't know what to study. Or if you know you want to study this for next semester, you need to be, gearing up to registering and starting to take those types of classes. And the best thing about it is all of those classes are online. So it's like, dude, those of you that are younger, that are used to online, post COVID kind of high school people, yeah, you could totally do a certification like that in 2 semesters. And I bet you'll have a pretty fat job real fast at almost any business, because everyone needs everyone. And I speaking it from my own company, everyone, is using AI to accelerate what they're capable of doing at the organization. Okay. It's you need to not, and I know I can already hear, like, man, my heart's aching, because it's like, dude, those are super dangerous technology, super dangerous company, etc. Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. But when the internet came out, we had to learn the tech. When email came out, we had to learn the tech. When text messaging came out, we had to learn the tech. But now this is the newest reiteration. You have to learn the tech, or the tech will eat you, right? And so, it's like a double-edged sword. You're gonna get cut, but you need to survive. And so, the more you know, those of you that are out there, undocumented students, consider technology certificates of achievements, associate's degrees, and even transfer programs in technology, like, bachelor's degree at computer science, like Sac State, for example. Say you want a bachelor's degree in computer science. Sac State is a big organization here in Sacramento, the largest in Sacramento, and then UC Davis is over in Davis. But those are the two largest institutions. They both have bachelor's degrees in computer science. They both have no, let me take that back. They both have bachelor's degrees in computer science. They both have bachelor's degrees in computer engineering. Sac State, and this is what a lot of people don't miss, is there's a bachelor's degree at Sac State in business administration with a concentration in management information systems. Okay. That's MIS. MIS, Management Information Systems, is the focus of the business administration. One of the focuses. There's other focuses, but MIS is the one for technology. And so, there's different ways to do it. You can go the computer science route, you can go the computer engineering route, you can go the business MIS route, and you can do all that through the local community colleges, right? And it doesn't have to be local. You can be down in San Diego and do the right classes to transfer in to, say, Sacramento State University as any of those majors. The classes that you take at the community college will just be a little different depending on the path you take. To recap, if you're listening to this and you know an undocumented student, you are an undocumented student, or you're a parent of an undocumented student that wants to go to college in California, yes, they can. We do appointments. We highly encourage you to reach out, send us a message here on any platform that you're listening to us, and we'll send you the link for a virtual 30-minute appointment. We do not charge. We are here for the public. We're here to help you kind of figure things out, and then we're here to tell you, where to finish off that education the most affordable way possible. Alexandra, muchas gracias for your time and managing me in the comments. So,
Yes, of course. Thank you.
gracias.
Thank
Until
you for
next
the
time.
invite. Till
See you later,
next
everyone.
time. Bye.